Hello. All right, well, this is a different kind of video for me. You may be wondering, what the fuck? Victor posting? Yeah, so I'm actually gonna do some more one-off videos to kind of fill the gaps in between the bigger, longer ones that take me months or a month or a couple months to complete. I don't like my channel being a barren fucking wasteland, so we're gonna try something new and we're gonna just fill it out with some lower effort, more casual, but just as quality and fun content. So what we're gonna be doing today is the political compass. As you know, I'm pretty political in general. In my videos, I usually tend to like squeeze them in there. Like you can kind of tell how I think a little bit, but haven't been very explicit about it in general. And since I am an authority on all politics, like my opinions are actually facts and I know everything, since that is the case, be gone ad. If that's the case, I am going to be sharing my doctrine and letting you guys know what is right and what is wrong. No, but actually, I'm just taking this test. I actually don't know. If I have to Google something, I will Google it on stream, like on screen, like you will see it. I'm kind of a fucking idiot. All right, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Okay, so with this question, I feel like the answer is pretty fucking obvious. I don't know in what world we would want corporations to have priority over humanity. You can serve corporations in a way that helps serve humanity, but a direct process is always better than an indirect process. All right, so we're gonna do strongly agree for that. Next, I always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. All right, no one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. So this is actually kind of a decent question. So this is nationalism, I guess, which can be fine and can be bad. Like for example, like, you know, nationalism in like Ukraine or something, or even for like countries that have been colonized or something, you know, you can, if you want to retain your identity as a part of a specific country or group of people, or even like Palestine or something, then nationalism's kind of a part of that to an extent. But also nationalism can be very bad, as you know, with the scary ghost men and all of the like American patriots nowadays. So I feel weird about the whole, you know, supporting your country thing. I do think it's weird. I think a perfect world wouldn't need nationalism, but I understand why it exists. So I'm gonna disagree. I'm not gonna strongly disagree though. So we're gonna do a disagree. Our race has many superior qualities when compared to other races. All right, we're gonna agree to that. No, I'm fucking around. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I feel like this is one of the dumbest questions. Like, it's so vague and sure. Military action that defiles international law is sometimes justified. I think the problem with this is this kind of speaks to authoritarianism to an extent. It's like laws, because this doesn't say good laws. This just says laws in general. What if one day international laws are just like something that I completely disagree with? Right now, not necessarily, right? But what if that becomes a thing that happens? If that's the case, then I wouldn't agree with this. But as international laws stand, you know, like not like war crimes and stuff, like if we did less of that, that'd be cool. That'd be pretty cool. So we're gonna, I'll do a soft agree. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I feel like that was just like a bar. I'm gonna strongly disagree. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. People are ultimately divided by class than by nationality. As someone who is me, it's a little easy to say that, like, you know, due to my experiences, that things like race and stuff matter more. But I don't think that's the case, even if I think ultimately class is usually the biggest way you can distinguish between the ways in which different groups of people different people are treated, right? Like poor people generally get it the worst, regardless of what there is. So I agree with that. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. This is just a weird economic question. inflation is not fun, but also people need to be employed. But in order to control one, you have to kind of control both to an extent. I don't really like this question. I'll just disagree or agree. Yeah, I'll just agree. I guess because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Do corporations require regulation? Do they require regulations? Are corporations gonna kill the environment without regulation? Corporations only care about profit. That is going to be their driving motivator. That is going to be the reason why they do and don't do things. So since that is the case, they need to be regulated, because profit is not something you need ethics to get. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. It's hard. This is a hard one. I think that people should have, I think that there's certain things where it's out of your control, whether or not it's your ability to get something, right? Everyone doesn't spawn in at level 1. People spawn in at different areas. Some people are spawned in a multi-million-dollar mansion. Other people spawn in a homeless shelter. The idea of what their ability is, where it says according to each's ability, is in concept good, but what if I have a disability? My needs should still be met. So no, I actually disagree with this. I don't think that's, I think it's a good idea in the concept that if everyone were to be, if in a perfect world everyone were to be like this, but I like to look at things how reality is. The freer the market, the freer the people. No. Actually, a good way of describing this is the concept of freedom, right? So freedom is kind of like a curve to an extent, where it's kind of like you can reach maximum freedom, but maximum freedom is not just everyone getting to do what they want, or it's not no regulation at all whatsoever. For example, I'm technically freer if I have more options to do things. Imagine this. If I am, let's say it's the freest market possible, right? And let's say I am someone who is disabled, or I've had some bad luck, or I just, was born into poverty or anything like that. In a very free market, as we see in America, that usually doesn't result in me having more opportunity to do things. Like my opportunities are actually limited. I'm less free. I have less choices than I should. But in a situation where maybe the market's a little bit more restricted to an extent, maybe there's the edge cases, maybe we take it so people who are able to make just billions and billions have to pay more, and people who have nothing, like squelch, are given something to raise them up. Technically, that market is less free, but the people who are rich still have the ability to do anything that they want, right? They just don't have as much excess. And the people who are poor actually have vastly more opportunities to do things, which means that they're freer, meaning in total more people have more freedom. Because of that, I don't think that the freer the market, the freer the people makes sense. I strongly disagree. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, a branded consumer product. It's actually not that. Water is actually not. Water is free for the most part, right? Well, you can go into like a restaurant or anywhere and get water. It's the plastic that they're selling, right? So if you got a bottle, right, and you went around, you could find water fountains anywhere and fill it up. So I think it is a sad reflection of society that a basic need is like so commodified, but it's not. I feel like bottled water is a terrible example of that. They could have chosen anything else. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. I think it can work. I don't know enough. I don't have enough economic knowledge to really say how this should be. I think land should be available for everybody, but I don't know if just completely eliminating the market in which we sell and buy land would work for like business owners and shit. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to society. Strongly agree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Looks like it's time for some Google. Protection is the theory or practice of shielding a country's domestic industries from foreign competition by taxing import. Oh, sanctions. Agree. I think I think they're necessary. It sucks. I don't like sanctions, but it's, like I said, it's reality. Like, what about Russia and Ukraine, right? Russia needs to be sanctioned because they're pummeling a country for no reason. And that's a better alternative to, just war, especially at this point where an all-out war could just end the world. So I agree there. That might be a stupid answer though, because I don't really know that much of what protectionism is, but that'll be my stupid answer for now, I guess. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Real quick, a company should be incentivized to help, to benefit the consumer and the worker as much as humanly possible. I feel like that's the best way to bolster up a society in general, is for there to be a strict focus on maximizing the happiness of everyone, and not even in a collectivist sense where it's everyone needs to just be helping thy neighbor all the time, but I think a company like a grocery store or like McDonald's or a company selling you a specific good, their primary incentive should be to pay the people making the product as much as they can and to give as good a deal to the consumer as possible, in such that lines up with that company still being profitable and able to run, so it's like a balancing act, right? I think the balancing act is skewed too much towards profitability right now, but it needs to lean more towards benefiting the people. So yeah, the rich are too highly taxed. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. This is a hard one. So let's say we're just talking about a baseline, just inhalers or penicillin or leg surgery or something, then I strongly disagree. Primarily because you don't have the option of whether or not you need a higher standard of medical care when it comes to because if the phrase higher standard just means more complicated procedures, right? I think everyone should have access to all of it, and I think that we have the ability to give everyone access to all of it. So yeah, why would I agree with that? Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Yeah, I think anyone would agree with that. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Strongly agree. This is once again the concept of freedom being in your ability to maximize, I guess, in this case, it would be competition, right? For a free market to actually be free, there needs to be competition between different companies, because then you give consumers the freedom to choose, right? And not free in the sense that there's no regulation whatsoever, so whatever happens. That's like a kindergarten way of thinking about freedom, and it's not right, not correct. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Oof. Topical. The abortion argument is interesting because I don't like entertaining the argument of whether or not it's a baby, whether or not it is a baby in there or it's a life or whatever, because I think it's just an arbitrary one. With abortion, it's kind of the line is so hard to really draw that abortion it's all about what a woman has, their freedom, a woman's freedom to do what they want with their body. And carrying a baby to term, having a baby, having a kid is not something anyone should be forced to do. Women having that freedom is just better than them not. And I don't think some weird religious prescriptions should keep people from having that freedom. It's stupid. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You say an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth refer to the idea that people should be punished according to the way in which they offended. For example, if they hurt someone, they should be hurt equally bad. A very simple punishment. No, because I don't believe in stuff like capital punishment, right? So if someone kills someone, then I don't think they should just be shot on sight. I don't know, you accidentally run someone over, so you should be ran over. I guess this would mean any intentional action you should get back. It wouldn't be accidental stuff. I don't know. I just don't really agree with it. It seems kind of barbaric. I don't know. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. This is an interesting argument because I feel like there's this weird kind of counter art thing happening right now to an extent. I feel like sometimes people are I've noticed on Twitter, at least, people are talking a lot about how certain types of architecture or abstract art isn't useful, or art in general isn't useful. art is only useful in its ability, and it's in the way in which you can show off your ability to like recreate realistic things. It's not it's not helpful in the sense of you know, just representing emotions or having any kind of value past just an ability to draw realism. I feel like this kind of harkens to that. I don't know, maybe I'm just, you know, reaching, but I don't know. Yeah, with this one, I would just disagree. People need to be able to have fun. Like, people should have access to things. Tax dollars can cover it, so tax dollars should cover it. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I disagree with this. School, I feel like we have a little bit of a weird idea of how school should work. I'm in college right now. I find it to be a little bit of a struggle to get through it. I'm in my last-ish year, and it's just, there's a lot of stuff in it that, like a lot of gen eds and stuff that I don't agree with having to take, and also with like, you know, some, you know, just and a lot of stuff in elementary and stuff. Like we take U.S. history like eight years in a row, and it's like not even taught well, right? Like in that case, like I'm like, yeah, I'd rather skip than go. But the reason why I think school as a concept needs to exist in some way, I think society only has to benefit from the population being educated, meaning that in a good school system, in a school, like schools in general, there needs to be attendance. Like you have to go, as kids won't go, right? And parents shouldn't have a say in whether or not their kids receive an education. That is a right granted to kids. That's not a right that parents should like have the option of stripping away or giving to them, because they don't have a choice. And education is always good. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. That is ethno-nationalism. Strongly disagree. That's like a Nazi thing. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Here's the thing with this one. Here, let's go to Google real quick for this one, actually. For the most part, from what I've seen, spanking children doesn't actually work. There's been studies into this. It's not really an opinion at this point. Spanking your child only teaches them to fear you. Like it can work in terms of like persuading a kid to just do what they need to do without you having to convince them. But you're not teaching them to critically think. You're just teaching them to resent you. Or not only resent you, but you're also teaching them to do things for you out of fear. And then hopefully later they're like, well, I'm glad I did that. But a lot of times it's like, you know, do your homework or something, and then you get whooped, right? You get whooped, and then next thing you know, you do your homework and stuff because you're afraid of getting whooped. I don't really, as a kid, I'm not sitting there processing and thinking about the good grades I have now, right? I'm just thinking about the fact that I don't like that my parent hit me, or that if I don't do the right things, my parents are going to hit me. Do I think spanking is the biggest deal in the world? No. I think it's different than like child abuse or something, but I don't think it's, you know, helpful. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Yeah, it's just something that happens. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Yeah, it's non-violent. It should not be a criminal offense, and there's nothing really like, it's in a similar vein to like alcohol or something, right? It's kind of just like in moderation. It's not something that's inherently terrible for someone. It's terrible for certain people with like psychosis and stuff, but for the most part, in a broad sense, it's not. There's nothing really about it that is, you know, there's nothing about it that's causing some grand societal issue. And really, it's only used to criminalize black people and poor people and minorities in general. So yeah, no, I agree. It should not be a criminal offense. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Agree? I don't know. That's a hard one. I think it just should be like, yeah, I agree. I feel like we should be teaching people how to get a job, but find jobs, I don't know. Like, it just seems so weird. It feels dystopian to say it like that, but I guess I'll agree. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. That's eugenicist. Strongly disagree. People should be able to do whatever they want. Also, you don't know in terms of like what, like I mean, there's things like incest and stuff where it's like, doing that is just, one, is gross, but also that is technically a little bit of a eugenicist argument, but that's different. In this situation, I think, you know, you don't know where medical technology is going to be by the time you're having kids and stuff. Like, you know, there's people you might have like there's like a kidney disease or something, right? And maybe when your kid gets older, they might experience it. It's just a slippery slope to say people shouldn't be allowed to. So yeah, I strongly disagree. Right. The most unimportant The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Disagree. I think kids need to be disciplined because they don't know any better, but the most important thing for them to learn is to critically think, not to just listen to their superiors. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Yeah. Savage and civilized is stupid. I mean, yeah. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not accept society's support. I strongly disagree. I think at a baseline, people should be able to exist without working. I don't think that's like a lazy thing. I don't think you should be able to just buy whatever you want and have whatever you want and, you know, have luxuries and shit when you're not working, but you should not be homeless if you're not working. And I feel like my argument for this is more so a mental health argument than anything else. There's some times where you're just like, where mentally you need to dial it back, right? And I should be able to make the option of, or make the choice of, you know, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work for now, right? Because most people, I mean, studies show, most people will work. Most people will work regardless because people have aspirations and goals and stuff. People will work. But I should be able to have the option of, you know what, mentally, I feel like it's not really supportive for me right now, or it's not helpful for me right now to work a job. So I'm not going to, and I'll accept the fact that I might have less luxuries. I might have access to less things. I might have to, you know, get by in a different way because of it, right? But that's not, you know, it's just a difference between an ultimatum and a choice. Because right now it's an ultimatum. You either work or die, right? That shouldn't be the thing. It should be you either work or your living conditions are just worse. That's kind of how I think about it. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more trivial things. That is how you have a mental breakdown. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. That's a strongly disagree. That is all dependent on the definition of this word right here. Here's the reason why. So they say that usually by the second and third generation, immigrants are assimilated into assimilated into a country. But what does assimilation and integration actually mean? Is it just speaking the country's native language, participating in that country's economics in a specific way? Is it, you know, like, I don't know, nationalism towards that country? It's very hard to say what integrated actually means, because you can give full
citizenship status
to anyone and say they're integrated, right? Or maybe it's just understanding that country's customs, but, you know, how many of their customs do you have to understand before you're integrated? In America, for example, it's just, as long as you speak English, you're good for the most part. And even if you don't speak English, at this point, you're pretty well accommodated for. So, I don't know. I strongly disagree with that. What's good for the most successful corporation is always ultimately good for all of us. Strongly disagree. What's good for Disney is to own every single entertainment company ever, right? But that's not good for the consumer, because then they can make whatever entertainment they want and we're forced to watch it. That's an easy argument to debunk this too. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Strongly disagree. We need more content that is unbiased, and, well, bias is everywhere, but like PBS, where it's more educational focused and factually focused than, you know, like a Fox News or an MSNBC, where there is a bias and a leaning. If you're publicly funded, you don't really have a specific agenda. You just kind of are making the content you want to make. And there are a lot of people who work in that sector, in that field, who genuinely, like journalism, who genuinely care just to push not an agenda, but to push what's real, to just help push society forward with you know, education. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. The Patriot Act. That's the easiest example. Patriot Act. We're gonna expand the surveillance state to make sure, you know, brown people aren't committing terrorist acts. Right? That's just something that happens all the time. That's factual as well. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. So this is actually a hard one. I don't necessarily know if I believe in a one-party state. I mean, a one-party, I feel like parties is weird because, you know, opinions are kind of, it's more fluid than whether you're not you're in one party, right? So am I a Democrat? I don't know. Like, I'm not a Republican, but I'm just saying, like, am I a Democrat? Am I a little bit lefter than that? Would I be in a different party? Not really, technically, because we only have 2 parties here. Anyways, you think about China, for example, right? They are, I don't really know if it's a one-party state necessarily, but I do know that it's not democratic. They have a lot more consolidation, so when stuff like COVID happens, they can literally build a hospital like that. Like they just shoot up a hospital. There is benefits to that. That is an advantage. So I guess I would agree, but I would not prefer a one-party state. That's the thing I don't like about questions like this. It's like, it feels like it might lean me towards being like more like one-party state is good, but it's just asking a flat-out question of, is an advantage of a one-party state is that you don't have to argue, right? But then again, arguments can be good, but like, sometimes arguments are dumb, like the vaccination argument. That was dumb. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. Everyone has a right to privacy, and that's just the fact of the matter. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Strongly disagree. Here's the reason why I don't like capital punishment. So I am someone who believes that rehabilitation should always be prioritized over incarceration or punishment, but I don't think rehabilitation can work for everybody. I actually don't. I don't think it can work for every single person in the world. I think there are some people who are just so twisted, so fucked, and you know, where it's like, there's no way you're going to be able to rehabilitate them to be able to function, you know, in a way that's not harmful to others. But the thing about capital punishment is that you can never actually fully prove that someone committed a crime. There's too many situations where someone can just be executed for a crime they didn't do. Right, that's just something that can happen, and it costs money. It costs more to kill niggas. It costs more money to execute someone than to incarcerate them, right? And also, when you have all the discrimination, you have situations where people who like look like me, for example, aren't really getting fair trials. The system isn't perfect, and so since the system isn't perfect, it's the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth thing, right? I already don't really fundamentally believe in that. So I don't think killing people is just a good thing to do. I think it's barbaric. I don't think anyone should have the option to kill someone unless it's in self-defense or defending someone or something. My opinion on this is strongly disagree. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I agree, I guess. I don't know, I disagree, agree. There always needs to be someone at the top organizing stuff, right? Like even in like I think there always needs to be people who are able to, like, not a top-down system in terms of just power, right? Because, you know, that's a whole nother can of worms, right? Because democracy kind of makes it the opposite, right? Public officials have to respond to the people in order to keep their power. The only thing is that, could a country function if there wasn't a Senate, or if there wasn't a House of Representatives, or if there wasn't a president or something, or if, like, you know, could everything just be, there needs to be a way of organizing things. So I you know, maybe this comes to my ignorance and not really knowing of a different alternative, but it seems like that's just how things are. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. I think this is like a right-wing thing. I think like there's a right-wing thing where it's like, art is only valuable in its ability to show how talented you are in terms of realism and duplicating like things, and like, you know, just like your talent in drawing realistic things, right? Just like how like they tend to like classical music a lot, because classical music is can technically be harder to play than maybe some more improvisation stuff. Now, by technically, I don't mean like it's just harder, right? But like playing Flight of the Bumblebee is the same thing every time, right? But it's a really hard song to learn because it's just, you just got to be able to play fast and read the music and play it perfectly. Whereas with improv, you can kind of mess up a little bit and fuck around, and like your emotions are kind of poured into it a little bit more. It's not as technically focused. It all depends on the route you go, right? Because a realism art is not going to be able to do abstract art, and like necessarily, right, inherently, as if a classical pianist is not going to be able to do more jazz and blues orientated stuff with ease, because it's just two different sectors or two different parts of a whole. But I feel like there's a weird fixation on people's ability, or there's a weird fixation on not emotionally and like colorfully driven stuff, but more so just pure ability driven stuff. At least with stuff that's more right-leaning. You can tell me if I'm wrong on that. So I strongly disagree. I think abstract art is very valuable. I think all art is valuable. I think most art is valuable. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Strongly disagree. Rehabilitation should always be the goal, because rehabilitation is just how you just help people. We should all care about helping people. Maximizing the happiness of everyone else usually maximizes the happiness for you. Maybe not for the people at the tippity top, but for most everyone else, that's really what you want, because anyone can end up in the criminal justice system. You should be prioritizing rehabilitation for yourself, but also just not being an asshole. You should also care about it for other people. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. It's never a waste of time to try. Like I said, I do think there's people who exist who can't be rehabilitated, but it's never a waste of time to try. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree. A world without art, a world without writing is cold and bleak. There's no reason to associate some extra importance to business person and manufacturers, right? It's just creativity is important, and creativity plays into all four of these things, and that's just kind of how I think about it. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Strongly disagree. That's just dumb. That's just antiquated. Why would you think that? Mothers should be able to do whatever the fuck they want. And also, I think it's sexist to think that women can only take care of babies, right? Like, I think niggas are being sexist when they're like, oh, mothers need to be the caregivers. Why? Explain. You know, it's just stupid. Like, you should, if they want to be, then they should be. If the dad wants to be, then he should be. If it's two dads, then either of them could be, both could be, whatever. If it's two moms, whatever. It's like, it could be whatever. It's not. It's so arbitrary and stupid. I just don't care. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Strongly agree. That's just look it up. I mean, I could like do that and put it in Google and it would just say like I just do that and put it into Google and it would just be like, yes, that's exactly what's happening. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Fuck no, that's bootlicking. What the fuck? Making peace with the establishment? Imagine if slaves made peace with the establishment. That's crazy. That's crazy. Astrology accurately explains many things. I want to say yes just because it's funny, but no, it doesn't. You cannot be moral without being religious. Let's disagree. I am somewhat religious, right? I grew up religious to an extent, but my family is very. My family does never puts religion first, even if it is something that plays into our moral framework to an extent. I do believe in like God and stuff, but I don't think that's required. Many good people that I know are not religious in the slightest, and also like a lot of people who are religious or have really wacky moral framework because they take that shit a little too literally. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. All right, we're talking about this for a second. Let's go to the IRL camo. Wait. Charity is better than Social Security. Fuck no. Philanthropy is just categorically not a good, it's good, but it's not a thing that can replace, the charity sector cannot replace Social Security. It just can't. I mean, you see it right now. Social mobility is trash. There is a big difference between 99% to the 1%, right? I mean, like, fucking, let me go over here, right? Like, food insecurity. America, right? Let's do this, right? The prevalence of insecurity in 2020 is unchanged from 89.5% of U.S. households were food secure throughout the year. The remaining 10.5% of households were food insecure at least sometime during the year, and 3.9%, 5.1 million households had very low food security. 10.5%, right? How many is that? How many people are in America in 2020? I think that's 327 million, I think. America population. Oh, I spelled that wrong. So 329 million. So back then, 327 million. So 10.5% of, let's say, 327, what is it? 34 million fucking people. 34 million people were food insecure, dude. Charity is not doing shit about that. And then that's also on top of like, I don't know how many people are homeless in America, right? It's like 550,000 people who are homeless. It's only going up, right? And that's not even like accounting for like the many different ways Social Security helps people. Like, even look at gas right now. Philanthropy isn't doing anything about gas, right? But people need gas. That's like, anyways, it can't. It just can't. We can't rely on people being charitable. That people aren't people are, but people are not nearly charitable enough to cover this shit. And they shouldn't have to be. It should just be taxes. You know, tax the rich, I guess. So no, strongly disagree. Some people are naturally unlucky. I don't believe in luck and unluck. I mean, I kind of do, to like, for fun, just like I think astrology is hilarious and I believe in it. Not really, but it's fun to talk about it. No, that's just stupid. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. No, it's not. Religious values can mean anything. I don't really agree with that. And I know right there it's like dog whistling Christianity, but whatever. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Sex is not a significant thing to a lot of people, right? It depends on who you are, whether or not how you view sex and intimacy, and how you want that to play in your life. And as long as it's consensual, it's not immoral. So no. A same-sex couple is in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Now, this is a Republican argument saying that, like, I'm not saying the political compass is making one, but to say that they should be excluded is a Republican argument, which is weird because you would want the adoption, like, if you want to force babies to term, then you want people to be able to adopt, right? Like, you want, like, they got to go somewhere, right? You don't want to only care about a fetus, you care about the person, right? But you know, the argument's inherently dumb anyways, but anyone should be able to adopt. If you can prove that you can take care of a kid, you should be able to adopt. All right, pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Yeah. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Yeah. No one can feel naturally homosexual. No, I mean, that's people are homosexual, right? I don't think you choose to be. You don't choose to be gay, so you just are. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Now, I want to say yes because it's funny, but no. I think it's good that people are open about this kind of stuff because I think it pushes for more positive or like less insecure ways of approaching sexual relationships. I think repressing that stuff and forcing it to be very private is what causes people to not really be very educated on any of that kind of stuff and to do things that might be unhealthy and not really helpful to them, right? And I also think, you know, like forcing the moral guilt and stuff like that. It's just with all of this, like it's just not that big of a deal. I think that's just my opinion on it. I just think sex is just not that big of a deal, right? I think sex is used as a tool to like just like or making it a big deal is used as a tool to just discriminate. But I don't think that's like good, you know, or not give like kids like sexual education, like sex ed, because it's so like immoral and shit, and so like that's dumb. You gotta prepare people. About the political compass. Yeah, I know. I don't think a libertarian right really exists, but whatever. I think China is authoritarian. I don't think China's like that left leaning. Okay, let's see. Oh. Okay, economic left, and yeah, that makes sense. So left libertarian. This is my political compass. So now you can see where I am, where I stand politically. Does that make me a socialist, a social democrat, a communist? I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a communist, but other ones, it kind of changes on the day. I don't know. Anyways, I think it just sums up in the fact that, let me actually go back to my rarely cam. I think it just sums up in the fact that I just think people should generally be able to do what they want as long as it's not harming others, I guess, right? And I also think that the government has a obligation to help people and to maximize the amount of people who have access to living life to its fullest, I guess. So that is going to be that for this video. I appreciate you watching. I'm not used to doing the live kind of back and forth thing, so if I'm looking over and stuff, it's just, I apologize for that. I am used to like the scripted content that you're used to seeing. But I thought this video would be really fun to make. Please let me know if you want to see more content like this. I actually do have a plan for a, some other stuff, maybe like some tier lists, some fun stuff like that. I had a Marvel tier list speedrun. I might redo that after I see Doctor Strange, because my opinions have obviously changed on that kind of stuff. Make it a speedrun again or something. I'll talk about music a little bit. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with this channel. I think the video essays are always going to be my driving force. The video essays are always going to be the thing that I'm like, this is because the whole point of them, like I say in the description, is I just practice my editing. I'm an editor, so all I want to do is practice my editing. But I do have opinions on things. I have things I like to say. I like to come up with like my last video, like lesson plans and shit. Like I like to come up with stuff and make whole like productions around it. But it takes a while. And since I'm in school, since I'm working, since I'm doing all this stuff, I can't do it once a month or ever consistently. I can't. Like it's gonna be a couple months in between every single one of those videos I can make, no matter what I try to do. It's just because they take too long. I try to up the standard. After Effects blows up my fucking computer. It's a lot of work. So I want to squeeze some content like this in the middle. I know variety in channels usually isn't great, but my channel is just getting started. And also I think people would like, I think I would be able to keep building a subscriber base because I've only been able to build subscribers off of like big videos that drop. I get a decent chunk, then a lot of them don't come back to watch the next one because it's been like 6 months or whatever. So I'm gonna make more content like this. Please let me know if you enjoy it. If so, leave a like, leave a comment, hop on my Twitter, and all that kind of fun stuff. And yeah, I appreciate you watching. God, I need a script so bad.